The time is 10 minutes before the top of the hour, and we're going to be speaking with Yaseen Theba, director of the private security firm Vision Tactical, about his company's role in supporting South Africa give out a very, very successful G20 summit. The world has been lauding, I think, the first G20 summit to ever happen on African soil, and we'll be getting insight on the operational plan and how Vision Tactical was involved, and most importantly, why he thinks this period has been a triumph for security, coordination, and public safety as Vision Tactical ramps up its intelligence-led deployment during the summit and also leading up to the festive season. We'll be exploring the risks they've identified and how they've managed them and what lessons this holds for future large-scale national security operations like the G20 summit. And Yaseen is joining us via virtual platform, and he'll be giving us insight on how they were involved. I was there at Nasrec, and I mean, the operation was next level. You couldn't pass through anything undetected. And we'll be getting insight on just how Vision Tactical was involved in that very, very, I think, successful security operation. Yaseen, Assalamu alaikum. Jazakallah so much for chatting to us again.
Walaikum salam. Always good to be with you.
Pleasure's all ours. I think we'll jump right into it. If you can start by giving us an overview of what Vision Tactical's G20 operation plan entailed and just how involved you guys were in this very, very successful World Summit, essentially held on African soil for the first time.
Well, Vision Tactical got involved very early in the year when we started looking at all the final preparations that need to be accommodated. At some of the venues where the delegates would be staying. And as you are aware, the summit just didn't entail the leader summit. The leader summit, it all built up to the leader summit. But over the past few months, we've been receiving delegates, advanced teams, planning teams, and also law enforcement agencies from abroad who visited South Africa, identified some of the security issues, discussed it with our local enforcement and us as a private security company working at some of the venues or securing some of the venues where these delegates would be moving. And while during these past few months, identifying some of the issues, we constantly setting meetings, shock preparations, preparing to ensure that we can fill some of those gaps. The venue was secured by South African law enforcement, and we know that the Net Joints did an excellent job of keeping the public updated on what the operational plan for the venue. But we knew that these delegates wouldn't just be at the venue. They'd be having dinner arrangements, they'd be meeting local communities and having other smaller meetings at different venues. And of course, the hotels where they were staying. And that became our responsibility to ensure that we've got the seamless coordination between all the teams on the ground, all these international entities. And we had to make sure that the seamless coordination resulted in a successful operation, but also not inconveniencing our local community too much. And I think we've done a good job. I know there has been some complaints of roads being closed in it, but this was absolutely necessary. And overall, it's been a success, and we are absolutely happy that we could work with teams, not just the South African Police Service and the local entities that were part of the Net Joints, but we could also mingle and mix with the international entities and the police from other units, their presidential protection units, resulting in everyone's safety.
And I want to touch on exactly that, the fact that, you had all of these world leaders coming into South Africa, all of them with their, high security detail, just being a part of this and having access to so much information and other methods of operation from Vision Tactical's point of view, how important was it and how enriching was it to be exposed to that highest level of security detail and risk assessment and all of the work that goes into putting this kind of event to make it a success?
Well, I think for us, the biggest satisfaction is working with these, because you're dealing with elite teams that that operate very differently. They're guarding heads of state, they're guarding their families, and the attention to detail was absolutely astonishing to us. Making sure that everything is planned down to the last detail, every step is calculated, every convoy is calculated, and I think for us, the experience of working with that amount of detail, when the delegate gets to the hotel, which direction is he walking in, which lift is he taking, what time are they coming down, and that clockwork precision all the time was something that we learned a lot from, because we're working with a level like that. It's something that we've been exposed to before. Yes, we've dealt with the BRICS summit, we've dealt with our local presidential protection unit attending funerals, attending events here. So we've dealt with presidential protection units, but dealing with 43 delegates all moving in a very close proximity. Sometimes a simple taking a simple delegate from point A to point B, the amount of planning and precision that goes into minute by minute, detailed second by second, and then you've always got this planning notion that if anything changes, what's the backup plan? What's the contingency plan? What's the exit plan? So you're planning, and I think that for us gave us insight into a lot of training into what we need to do. How do we plan for future events? So we learned a lot. We learned a lot because we're dealing with people that do this every day. And while I can say the experience was a lot of fun, we also learned a lot. And I think that can be the biggest takeaway, that working with these units, you're exposed to so much more, apart from just fighting crime and combating crime and investigating crime.
Were there some, security concerns that were there that maybe the public didn't know about because they were dealt with quite swiftly by your team in coordination with the SAPs and all the other security details that were there?
Like I said, there were always security concerns. I've always maintained, we'll be fools to admit that Johannesburg isn't one of the most dangerous cities in the world. So of course those concerns were brought up much earlier. We made contingency plans for in the event that there is risks. But I mean, we were aware what the risks were. We made sure that we can deal with it, and even point to point. I mean, I think through the past weekend, the biggest stumble was the heavy rain that we had, because everything was planned to such an extent, and then we had this major downpour in the heart of the conference, and at the point when this conference came. So I mean, that was our biggest stress, and alhamdulillah, things went well, and we had to deal with heavy downpour. But again, because these guys playing at such a different level, a simple downpour of rain changes a lot of the planning in it. So when it comes to security risks in it, I think we identified those risks together with law enforcement, the international entities, the organizers, the various management groups that were involved at the hotels. A lot of the risks, the traffic departments, a lot of those risks were eliminated long before the delegates arrived in South Africa. And I think we've done a good job showing that we can make Joburg a safer city for everyone, not just for the delegates. I think this is an eye-opener to say that if we really want to, we can work together. And this is what we've been trying to push out. That, very often we hear that to solve crime in Joburg or in Gauteng or in South Africa is a very complex issue. And this weekend showed us that that's just a narrative and that's just an excuse that we fall back on. If we really want to, and there is that world power, there is that political will as well, which is important, and I'll be failing in this interview if I don't say there has to be that political world power to say we want to make our streets cleaner, we want to get homeless off the street, we want to make sure that South Africans are safe, not just the delegates that are visiting us for a once-off event. I think we can see a lot more collaboration between units. We can see net joints working together. including the South African Defence Force that was out in supporting local SEPS law enforcement on the ground. And it asked us a lot of questions that we had to reflect on, to say, what are we doing every day for the South Africans in this country? And this is what we've been pushing out. We said yesterday we had a debrief session with our members, and of course a lot of the law enforcement members that we work with, and we just ran through where were our faults, what can we do better, and also what was the success of this operation. And it's clear that seamless communication between different entities working together is our success. And then, of course, there has to be that willpower to get things done. And yes, we can become a world-class city. We displayed that over this weekend.
No, most definitely. And I think that's very, very important. The lessons that we're supposed to take on this and implement them now that G20 has come and gone. But from our side, congratulations on really, really wonderful work. We were there at the summit itself. We saw some members of your team, and I think it was a proud moment for all of us, a proud moment for all people here in South Africa, and particularly for Joburgers. We have a city, as you said, that has a reputation for being one of the most dangerous cities in the world. But the G20 has come and gone, and there hasn't even been one incident. So kudos to you and everyone that was involved for that. Really, really appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
There you go. That was Vision Technical Director Yaseen Theba giving us a bit of insight on the security operations behind a very, very smooth and successful summit. If you were there, man, you could see the coordination between the South African Police Services, the Army, JMPD, private security, like Vision Technical. It was precision. And I think Yaseen is making a very, very important point. The fact that what can we do with the lessons learned from the G20 summit, whether it's from service delivery's point of view, where you saw the city transform, essentially get a facelift like we've never seen before, roads being tarred, potholes being filled, traffic lights being fixed. It was a different kind of setup. When it comes to police visibility also, you couldn't travel anywhere in Johannesburg within the vicinity, in and around anywhere that's leading to Nasrec without seeing heavy police presence. They were visible on all fronts, all across the city. Even from as far as Pretoria, you'd see police, you'd see a coordination of a present working city. And I think all of us right now can only demand, not ask nicely from the city or from the government. We can now demand to say there are resources, there is budgets to make sure that us as people of Joburg enjoy a city that is of quality, a world-class African city, as it was coined so many years ago, but it's not anymore. So we can now demand that and say, well, you did it during the G20 summit. Why can't you do it now? Why can't you fix the streets now? Why can't you have security detail and police and the JMPD at every corner and every intersection of the city? Because we know it's there. We know the resources are there. But for some reason, you guys just don't think us, the residents of the city, are deserving of them. I had an opportunity to speak to the mayor of Johannesburg, Dada Morero, at the summit. And I asked him clearly, the residents of the city are concerned about whether or not service delivery will continue at a pace and at a rate that we are seeing because of this G20. And he made a pledge. He said, this is going to be happening. This was part of a strategy to revitalize the city. And I think we can only wait and see if he'll keep to his word. Otherwise, the local government elections are around the corner in December 2026. So something to ponder about. We've come to the end of today's edition of News and Views. Thank you so much for staying with us. I'll be back with you again tomorrow for the Wednesday edition of the show. Coming up next from 11 until 1 is the mid-morning show with Julie Ali, produced and brought to you by Puti. Very, very incredible producer. She's been working on the show and you don't want to miss it. You want to sit down, make sure that you take a breather from all the heavy talks of politics and news, and speak health, speak family, speak psychology, mental health, speak everything else except what we've been talking about on news and views. We do need a breather sometimes. News can get a bit hard, can get a bit heavy, but there's something a bit lighthearted for you from 11 right until 1. Otherwise, for myself, Solano Makudir, and everyone that made today's edition of the show possible, it's Shap Shap. See you again tomorrow.